Welcome to the Lakers Late Night Podcast. I am Anthony Irwin. It's a little darker in my room than I would have expected because it looked like the Lakers were going to roll to a nice victory, but I'm joined by a forlorn Ben Rosales and an equally down Harrison Faigen. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're just aghast. How could this team be so bad when we wrote up all of a few hours ago that this team is going to be so bad? So,
yeah, Harrison is actually literally aghast. He's a little pale.
Yeah, like, what just happened?
That was
I left the room at halftime to go sing my brother happy birthday, and then I just came back and the TV was on fire.
Sadness.
It's one of those things where after it all takes place, you just sit there and think, well, that just happened, like oh, all right, well, what now,
Oh God.
We're going to follow the same pace as the game followed tonight. I thought for a good majority of it, the Lakers looked good and the Timberwolves looked terrible. And then, I don't know, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think the Wolves looked that great. It's that the Lakers started looking terrible. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, the kind of the turning point, the inflection point, was in the third quarter when both teams got on the penalty really early. And then essentially on every trip down, the Wolves would draw some sort of foul when they realized that none of the Lakers' wing players was ready to guard. Shabazz Muhammad, who's a very good slasher, are ready to guard Wiggins in the post, are most of all ready to guard Kevin Martin, kind of doing the same thing Lou Williams does, his little fakes and whatnot to draw contact, get fouls, and he kind of gets a bit of it by reputation at this point. But the Lakers, on the same token, on the other end, couldn't string together good sequences on offense, really bogged down. I mean, even with Huertas and Lou out there, they were taking really bad shots, and it all kind of devolved down. Then after that, the fourth quarter, and Kobe decided to take everything upon himself and shoot ISOs for 8 consecutive possessions. So that was fun. It kind of, put the nail in any attempt to make a substantive comeback. As much as the team tried to come back, the team did come back. They could have won. I thought Lou Williams got a pretty good look at the last moment, but the things they did up to that definitely kind of what is that?
yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Just what? I'm not allowed to cuss on here, but what the?
Yeah. There we go.
We're going to start, like I said, with the positives, and I thought of the young guys, of the future core of the Lakers. Harrison, I thought it was not even close. Randle looked the best of the three.
Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch to say at all. I think he looked really good tonight, pushing it in transition. He was not as much as you'd like to see, but he was using both hands. He was out there jawing with KG, which was awesome. And then he clowned him on that inbounds play where he bounced it in off his butt. That was probably my favorite play of the entire night, was just him just going right at KG after not backing down from Draymond Green. So Julius is almost like the guy who comes to a new school and picks a fight with the biggest bullies just to prove how tough he is. It's not going up against weaklings. He's trying to find KG and Draymond Green. He might be a little crazy, but I like it. You can see the Ron Artest influence.
He didn't flinch at all. And then, you got a lot of the KG is a fake tough guy on Twitter, which is, I think, hilariously ironic, because you're sitting on Twitter tweeting about how tough somebody else isn't, which is the epitome of fake toughness. We'll just kind of go through Julius Randle's stat line here. 5 of 13 from the floor. You'd like to see that a little better. 5 of 6 from the free throw line. That's nice. 11 boards. I thought he was super active there. 15 points to finish off the double-double. Aside from the statistics, what would you say is the strongest aspect of his game that you saw tonight, Ben?
It was definitely his first step. At every opportunity, he beat his guy off the dribble, whoever it was, whether it was Garnett, it was Belica, it was Dieng, it was Towns, what have you. every time he would beat this guy with a dribble. I mean, and then it shows you. I mean, we'll get to the issues with that that come after that in a second. But I mean, the fact that he's able to do that right now, I mean, speaks really highly of his potential. I mean that you're able to do that as a 20-year-old. I think he's 20 now. I mean, frankly really impressive. I mean, it was just all of a week ago when he was blowing by Draymond Green, the number 2 in the running for Defensive Player of the Year last year. I mean, to the rim. I mean, I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if there's not a power forward in the league aside from maybe like LeBron, like that he can't do this against on a daily basis. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it's really impressive how defenders just kind of bounce off of him. He just kind of goes to the basket and he doesn't even flinch as people are bouncing off of him. The right hand needs to improve a little bit. The outside shot is but he's a work in progress. And if this is where you're starting from as a work in progress, I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah.
It's a giant improvement over last year's opening night. Can we all agree on
that? well, also on that note, I mean, he never really had a bad look. I mean, there was never a moment where he got to the rim and you never got the sense that, well, if he had a right hand, he would finish that. Like time and time again, we would say this. So he's not getting bad looks out there. Our defenders aren't forcing him into bad looks to the rim. I mean, he's getting those opportunities. He just is unable to finish it, whether it's mental, whether it's physical. He's just not that good with his right hand, or he just gets his block against going to his right, or what have you. But I mean, for a 20-year-old, again, I mean, we have to reserve our expectations with these guys. It's impressive what he's able to do. I mean, of all the Lakers on the court tonight, I mean, whenever Randle got the ball in ISO, I mean, something was gonna. I mean, he was going to create a look. It's just a question of whether he could actually convert that look.
Right. And this kind of goes without saying that before it just turns into an echo chamber here. The entire Lakers team didn't really shoot very well. The entire team shot 35 and 93 for 37%, only 25% on threes. So the fact that they got up to 111 points shooting so poorly, there were a lot of fouls. It was kind of a broken up game. But you take what you can. The other 2 guys that were on the court that we had an extra eye on were D'Angelo Russell, who wound up getting the start. There was some worry, there was some concern there that Byron would be a Byron. And Clarkson was also out there. Between those 2, Ben, who would you say looked the strongest? And you're kind of grading on a curve because Clarkson's a sophomore, Russell is a rookie. Otherwise, it's a really obvious question.
Right. I mean, I think even so, I thought Clarkson looked really good when he was out there. I think for the possessions he did have, I mean, whenever he came off the high pick and roll, I thought he looked really effective. I thought the Lakers were getting into their sets much better. I mean, it's easy to say Russell had a bad game. I thought he made a lot of opportunities when there were none. I mean, he was making, continuously during the game where we're like, wow, how come that guy didn't catch the great pass that Russell just made?
A couple times.
Yeah, Hibbert in transition. I mean, Bass under the rim, or any other number of people that weren't getting his passes on points. And I mean, he's making those necessary reads. I thought near the end of the third quarter, when he took over as the primary point guard, I thought he was getting into a nice rhythm. I mean, still the same caveats play. I mean, he needs to be a little more aggressive off the pick, and he needs to kind of use his floater game a bit more to kind of threaten going to the rim. And he needs to be a little bit more willing to, when the defenders go under the screen, to shoot threes. But I mean, by the same token, I mean, as you said, I mean, we're also grading from the curve. I have to remember these guys' age. I mean, Randall's 20, Russell's 19. I mean, for all the foibles, I mean, we're giving them. I mean, they're still doing things like, wow, that's impressive. That's a real NBA skill. And I mean that it's important that at least they have things to build upon.
Definitely. And then Ben hit on Russell. What did you see from Clarkson, Harrison?
I thought overall he was pretty solid, but nothing that he was doing was really jumping out at me. That's the thing that's almost struck me the most from the preseason and going into to tonight is he's not popping off of the screen as much. Not a literal screen, but the TV screen, as much as he was last year.
Okay.
When he was the only talented player of worth paying attention to on the court. This year, he's blending in a little bit more, which is good because it means that defenses are paying him a little bit less attention. But
and the talent level is increased around him.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So he is sharing the ball. He doesn't have the ball in his hands quite as much. So I think that there is going to be an adjustment period with that.
Yeah, and again, neither player. This is going to be a theme. Neither player shot particularly well. Clarkson 5 of 12, Russell 2 of 7. Neither made.
We just say no one shot particularly well. I mean,
yeah. I think warm-ups. I think everybody was out there bricking too. So I mean, it honestly, it kind of went how we thought it was going to go when we previewed it yesterday. The podcast ran today, but when we said that this game is probably going to be pretty ugly because it's a whole grip of rookies playing against each other. Rookies and sophomores playing against each other. Nobody likes watching the rookie-sophomore challenge. This was that, but with fewer good rookies and sophomores. We'll go ahead and move on to, I think, the most impressive Laker of the night. Lou Williams continues his really strong play. I can't help but feel like a lot of teams are out there kicking themselves thinking, how did we just let the sixth man of the year slip through the cracks? How did this happen? We'll go with you again, Harrison. Williams, 6 of 14, 21 points. Anything that he did that you were surprised by?
I mean, I'm surprised he took the game-winning shot, the potential game-winning shot. I think we'd all be lying if we expected after they went through all that, Randle was dribbling down the court and Byron called a timeout just as he was about to shoot it, apparently. Mm-hmm. That I would definitely be lying if I said that I expected the play out of that timeout after Kobe had just taken taken and missed like 8 straight shots. Mm-hmm. But I would be lying to your faces if I said that I expected a Lou Williams pick and roll coming out of that. So that surprised me. But then the other thing is kind of the same thing that we've been harping on from the preseason and from when he was signed. 6 for 14 isn't a great shooting percentage, but then he gets 7 free throws because any time he collides with anyone, I think the refs are compelled to blow their whistles for, I think it's in the CBA or something.
The whistle compels you. The whistle compels you.
I mean, Kevin Martin was drawing so many fouls in the third quarter that it got to the point where you thought if the two of them ran into each other, the refs' whistles would just explode and cause a singularity. It was a little ridiculous.
It was basically, Lou Williams, Kevin Martin, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James back in the day. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Same kind of calls.
Exactly.
What did you see from... Oh, go ahead. Did you have anything else?
I was just going to say, it's getting to the point where I'm more surprised when he has the ball and it doesn't end up with him getting a whistle than when he does draw some ridiculous foul.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing. I mean, we're harping on the Lakers shooting from the field, from the field and from three-point range, but they shot 91% from the free throw line tonight, which is going to help you a lot if you're going to score without shooting well from the floor. How about defensively, Ben? We'll just kind of put a bow on the Lakers. We'll say first 3.5 quarters, 2.5 quarters. What were the Lakers doing well when they were playing well, and then what? We'll talk about what the hell happened there in the second half of the third and into the fourth.
I mean, the bottom line is that when the first 2.5 quarters, they're hitting shots. That's really what it comes down to. Kobe was hit. A lot of the tough shots Kobe was hitting in the first half, he missed uniformly in the second half. So although to be fair, I thought in the first half, Kobe was also hitting a lot of shots off curls. He was running off screens. He was getting the ball. A little too far extended behind the top of the key for my taste, but he was still getting it. A spot-up opportunity off a curl, and I'd prefer that over the ISO fest that the rest of the game turned into.
Man. So one of the deep threes he hit was basically Chris Duhon range.
Yeah, pretty much. So and then I think the offense in general looked a little bit more open. same. I mean, this is also my damned by faint praise. I mean, you have 4 playmakers in the starting lineup, and you're wasting them with this dog and pony show with posting up Hibbert, spending 10 seconds to get the ball to either Kobe or Randle on the elbow. I mean, it's just run a high pick and roll with Randle or Hibbert, transition into another pick and roll on the wing, and repeat ad infinitum until you get a better look. I mean, run a simple system for the young guys. I mean, this isn't that complicated. And all too often, there's a reason the offense dogs down. It's because they ultimately they spend too much of the clock to try to create their looks, and the looks they're trying to create are just bad. There's a reason that Hibbert's effectiveness was largely off when he was good on offense was offensive rebounds, and occasionally he would get the ball near the basket and draw fouls. But whenever he was on a post up, I don't think he made even one opportunity on a post up tonight.
No.
But by and large, this is a guy who shot below 50% from the field near the rims. For a 7'2" guy, yeah, for a 7'2" guy, it's happening. But really the bottom line is the only guys the offense should be posting up is Kobe when he gets deep. And none of this. I think I said this in the preseason. I really don't like it when he gets in the elbow. He's too far. People don't move enough. And he doesn't really have the speed to blow by his guy enough, but put him on the either block. He's much closer to the rim. He's able to make more reads for people who are cutting and such. I like that a lot better. And he had some moments when he got the ball that deep, but by and large, he's at the elbow and it's not productive. And the same thing with everyone else. This isn't a crowd that is designed to run post-ups. This is a crowd that's designed to run pick and rolls until death. And then
how stupid does it feel to think that we have to point that out? that the team as compiled is not one to be posted up. It's ridiculous. ISO Joe Johnson would come to the Lakers and think the ball needs to move a little bit more. Before we get to again, and this comedy comes from a dark place, so I promise we'll lighten up the sadness that we saw in the second half of the third quarter and into the fourth. But the Timberwolves boasted a few promising players of their own. Karl Anthony Towns, I thought, looked really solid out there. Wiggins, I was kind of disappointed by. I thought he was just kind of there. It was kind of one of those weird games. And Ricky Rubio played the game of his effing life. Harrison, aside from Rubio, but what were your takeaways watching Towns and Randle kind of go at it a little bit whenever they did?
I didn't honestly notice the two of them going at it a whole lot.
There's only like a handful of possessions, yeah.
Yeah. The young guy on Minnesota that stuck out to me a little bit more so than the typical guys was I thought Shabazz Muhammad looked pretty good in his limited minutes.
Mm-hmm.
He just getting to the rim and kind of doing the things that a lot of people said that eventually he'd be able to do when he got drafted into the league. I think it was 2 years ago. And people, I think, were a little bit rush to call him a bust. I don't know that he's ever going to live up to the potential that a lot of people thought he had coming out of college, but he looked overall solid tonight, and I was kind of surprised to see that as someone who doesn't watch the Timberwolves a whole lot. So maybe it was an aberration, but I was impressed by him in his limited minutes.
If I remember correctly, and I'm sure if we were to ask some of those Timberwolves bloggers, they'd give us a little bit more specifics, but I believe he played pretty well at the tail end of last year. He started to turn a corner a little bit.
He was 3 of 5 from the field tonight, 3 or 4 free throws. So yeah, that kind of confirms what I thought I saw. I thought he was pretty good in limited minutes. So that's not one of the typical guys that would jump out at you. I was kind of looking forward to Clarkson versus Levine Volume 3, but we didn't exactly get that tonight.
Boy, Levine looked bad.
Yeah.
He just a lot of everything he did out there just looked really forced. It kind of struck me a lot of Jabari Brown trying to force his way onto the team, force his way into the rotation, trying to do a little too much at all times, and it never really looked right out there for Levine.
I was going to say it almost comes off as he's trying to win his starting job back, and he's trying a little too hard.
And it's tough for him. He's watching Ricky Rubio, like I said, play just an insane game. Ricky Rubio finished tonight 10 of 17. That's the most jumpers Ricky Rubio has ever made ever. Like
warm-ups.
Yeah, Pre-camp workouts, like all of that. Like he's never shot the ball that well. And also turning the ball over, 14-to-1 turnover ratio, like that's insane. It's a haircut. That's what it comes down to, you know. What did you see from Karl Anthony Towns, Ben? And then we'll just kind of, you know, it's waiting there. The third and fourth quarter is just like this ugly elephant in the room.
Well, to speak first to Shabazz Muhammad, I mean, he did. Last year he got in much better shape. He started performing a lot better, doing a lot of the same things we saw tonight: the slashing, being an effective off-bench threat. So, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an aberration, especially since the Lakers had no wing player capable of checking him. Unless you're gonna have to throw Anthony Brown in there. He probably might have been the only guy who would have played half decent positional defense on him. But as for Towns, he looks really impressive. He had some few kind of rookie moments out there, but by and large, I thought he acquitted himself pretty well on both ends. He was making really tough shots over Hibbert. Hibbert was not playing bad defense on him, and Towns was hitting fadeaway jumpers over him. He was making some good passes. He cleaned up the boards well on the other end. So I think by and large, it was a pretty good performance for him. As befits the guy, that I think most people at Silver Screen Roll had number one in their boards. It's just
everybody should have.
Yeah, above. Forgotten in this the Okafor Russell debate is that I think we all would have happily taken Towns in the run and been pretty happy with it. Other than again, maybe we got Towns, we would have team would have. Tried to pick up Roger and Rondos. Maybe we're all the better for it. But it's it befits a guy who's genuinely that talented. So on a night in which it's also important. Keep these things in context. These guys are all really young. They'll have good nights. They'll have bad nights. Towns and Okafor both had really good nights tonight. It looks kind of bad in comparison that Russell didn't. But as we said earlier, he had a lot of things in his favor that looked really well, even if the stat line didn't necessarily reflect it. And they're all still 19s. It's a long season, and wait for Kobe to start giving the ball up more and allowing Russell to take a wee bit more responsibility for running the offense.
So what you're saying is you want to wait a couple more games before saying definitively that Russell's a bust.
Oh, okay.
maybe a couple.
Just a couple more games before we figure out how good he's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I kind of laughed a little bit when you mentioned people rushing to judgment with Shabazz Muhammad. It's like, wait, people go too fast on these judgments? What could you possibly be talking about?
Yeah.
All right, let's collect ourselves. Let's try to woo-saw a little bit.
Going really weird, is it?
You're having problems with your mic, Anthony.
Yeah, there's something going wrong with your mic.
You guys go ahead.
Well, I think we're going to move on to the third and fourth quarters, which were less than charitable to the Lakers. So I think I think Harrison. I think the biggest issue I think we all agree on was the offensive flow kind of stagnated down into oblivion. But I think more than anything, it might be that the players are getting used to themselves. They might improve this through better chemistry down the road. But this is kind of a thing we're just going to have to get used to as far as Byron's system goes until he gives up and just lets the team run pick and roll. I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the offense did just get really bogged down, and you just I tweeted about it early in the game where the most indicative thing was in the third quarter Hibbert was the team leader in assists with 4, which should not be that showed how little ball movement was happening. Right. And a team like this, they have to be efficient offensively because they're going to be really bad on defense. I saw somebody say that, phrase it exactly like that, and that's 100% true, right? They aren't going to be good on Hibbert can do whatever he wants, but they're probably not going to get out of the bottom 10 defensively, maybe not even the bottom 5. I think out of the bottom 5, as I said yesterday on our season preview podcast, would be an accomplishment.
No, I think that's exactly right. There's too many liabilities. These guys are trying on that end, but it's the reality of having a rookie and a sophomore at the 2 guard positions and having Kobe on the wing. I mean, there's no way you're going to construct decent defense for that. Even if from time to time they do good things. I mean, there are some moments. I thought Clarkson was doing a good job closing out his man. I thought Randle was doing a good job moving his feet. But I mean, in the greater context of their defense, I mean, they just can't keep up. And then so long as Byron sees it fit to go with Bass, who was terrible tonight, really awful tonight, and Kelly as the backup lineup, which is fine. I mean, Kelly out there is fine, but Bass at the 5, I mean, in favor of Black, who's just flat out better at all the things.
I don't get what happened to Black.
I mean,
any idea? I haven't heard anything about an injury. I don't know why he's not playing at all.
I think he's just out of the rotation. It's Byron just trying to be clever, and it's just, I mean, for that lineup, I mean, the 5-man needs to, I mean, it's weird also when we're talking about the offense stagnating because the bench runs what the whole offense should be. They're much more free. The central ball handler gets to run as much pick and roll as he wants until he finds an opportunity. I mean, they're stretching the floor. They're going 4 out. That's how it should be, and it's not with the starters, which makes it really aggravating. But you're right. The 5-man, I mean, when they run, they should be running high. When they run high 1-5 pick and rolls, that 5-man has to drag the defense in when he rolls, and Black does that. And Bass, he's a good finisher, but he's not necessarily doing the same thing. His concern is he wants to pop after he gets the screen, which is fine. That's who he is. I mean, I think that's more effective when he's at the 4. And then on the defensive end, I mean, neither of them defends the rim. I mean, I thought Bass did okay when he rebounding, but altogether, I mean, just it's not a good unit. I mean, the unit looks good.
It's not a tenable defensive lineup. It's just not. You're not going to be able to protect the rim, period, with those two guys in there. Kelly can do a decent job helping sometimes, but he's not going to plug up the back line of your defense. No. It's ridiculous to expect otherwise. That's not his skill set.
It was almost laughable. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We're back.
Got out of the hornet's nest.
No, but it was almost laughable to see Kelly trying to box out Gorgie Jang for stretches, there where that's just not going to work. That's not going to go well. The one thing, the frustrating thing, you mentioned the free-flowing aspect of the bench versus the starting unit, and then especially there at the last 4 minutes or so of the fourth quarter, it was literally all right, your turn ISO, your turn ISO, your turn ISO, your turn ISO. And it was the worst offense I think you could possibly think of for this group.
And can we address how crazy it is that we're talking about a bench unit led by Nick Young and Lou Williams as the more free-flowing lineup?
I mean, the mere fact that, I mean, those two, and it's weird to say, their shot selection is better. I mean, they're getting...
It was good tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting threes, layups, and fouls. I mean, they're following the proper playbook, and the starters are getting lots of mid-range shots. I mean, so go figure. The flow at the bench looks a lot better because they're getting the right shots and they're looking for the right opportunities. I mean, Veritas is constantly looking for Lou and Young on the perimeter, and those guys want to shoot threes off curls, which is great. Lou draws a lot of fouls when he drives, which is great. Kelly shoots threes. I mean, he's done a lot better in attacking. I mean, he looks more athletic this year, but he's always been good at attacking closeouts. I think he's a little better at kind of turning that into opportunities at the rim this year. And then, Bass is bad, and we wish Black was in there. But overall, I mean, the approach is just better. I mean, there's a reason to madness that they look better than the starters. I mean, at a certain point, the starters kind of just need to get with the playbook and run, stuff that's more appropriate for the personnel. And, I mean, there was a point last year that Byron gave up on the Princeton and just let Clarkson run high pick and roll to death. And I don't know whether how soon we're going to reach that moment. Because, I mean, if he doesn't reach it soon enough, I mean, this team might be like 1-12 to start the year. I mean, we have a lot of road games coming up. And then he might be fired. That was the one. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, this team isn't. I mean, no one's going to cry this team doesn't make the playoffs. I mean, at least on the front office end. But I mean, the constant refrain is this team's going to be competitive. This team will win some games. So I mean, they're probably looking for like a mid-30s win team. And if the team's going to look that hapless from time to time, I mean, what can you do? I mean, at a certain point, you just have to say, well, hey, this isn't working. We're gonna can you because we're gonna hire Tom Thibodeau or what have you in the offseason, and we're just gonna let Jim Ian or our Pressy, our Phil
Mad
Pressy.
Dog.
Oh God, just let pull a Bernie and just let them run like whatever. And I mean, honestly, having no system is probably better than a system at the moment, because I mean, at least with no system, you would just revert to guys just running pick rolls all the time. I mean, we're not asking for something terribly complex here, and then the team still isn't making up on that. I mean, it's just it's very simple. These guys are good in certain situations; they're not good in others.
The problem is that the concept of what Byron is trying to implement just doesn't make much sense. You know, for the personnel on the team, it just doesn't. You know,
or the modern NBA, if we're being honest. But
Hunnit,
Yeah.
where's the 100 emoji? That you mentioned, I don't know if you said this on air or before or while we were on air, but it's just so frustrating when the quotes after the game aren't anything that are even mildly constructive. You know, like nothing comes from the game thinking like, well, you know, we can make this tweak here, and it's not like I'm asking for the entire freaking game plan moving on, but Bill Oram tweets, Byron on Kobe, he played hard, he competed. Awesome, Byron, way to go. But like maybe poke at the guy's shot selection there at the end. You know, maybe say we don't need all those ISOs at the very end of the game. It wouldn't kill you. It might. I mean, you never know, but you know. And then again, Byron, we had a lot of brain farts tonight. How is that constructive? Like, I'm putting this great game plan in, and there you go.
Well, also, I mean, it's at a certain point. I mean, I think it was the thing we said last year. The coach has to take responsibility for it. I mean, the preparation's the preparation's on you. I mean, that the team at brain farts, that's on you. You're the guy who's supposed to prepare him for that. So, I mean, it's okay to say that, hey, the team at brain farts, I'll make sure that they have to prepare better. I'll take this onto myself. I mean, for all their faults, I mean, Mike Brown and Mike D'Antoni, I mean, they criticized themselves. They were free with the, hey, like, we need to have a better game plan. We didn't succeed tonight, and we'll do better in that respect. They were willing, and I mean, and even if they weren't willing to like directly criticize Kobe, they're willing to fall on their own sword and say, well, I had to put him in, or at least say something along the lines of, I had to put him in better spots, or something like that, or I have to do my part to make sure that he's doing what he's doing. And Byron's, I mean, as he did all last year, I mean,
just steadfast,
abdicating responsibility. I mean, completely and utterly. And I mean, just I think Harrison can probably reminisce of this to me. I mean, to use a football example, like the Chargers coach Mike McCoy, after every single game, oh, we didn't execute. That's not the team we should be out there. And I mean, it's your own damn fault.
I did what I thought was best for the team at the time.
Oh my God! like I mean, you're the damn coach. I mean, like at a certain point, like you're there so you can fall on your sword and be that guy. I mean, Mike D'Antoni was willing to fall on his sword. Mike Brown was willing to fall on his sword. I mean, even Phil. I mean, Phil, with all his gravitas, all his mind games, was willing to say, hey, like, we didn't perform, we need to do a bit better. I mean, even he was a bit more willing to accept a certain amount of self-criticism than Byron does. And I mean, it's not a sustainable strategy. I mean, maybe what he says in the locker room is different. Maybe he acts a bit differently. But I mean, for what he says to the media, I mean, this isn't a productive attitude. I mean, this is probably why, it's one of the reasons, along with the bad practices, the doghouse rotations, and what have you, that teams zone him out. I mean, it's why New Jersey got him fired, why New Orleans got him fired. I mean, at a certain point, when the coach is saying, hey, it's your guys' fault, you're soft, it's your fault, your fault, every time. I mean, and especially in this point where it's just he's kissing Kobe's ass, essentially, to get his point across. I mean, the team is young enough that there's probably, those were veteran teams in New Jersey and New Orleans that forced him out because they just don't need to deal with his bullshit anymore. But I mean, it's not. I mean, this isn't a long-term productive attitude. I mean, especially when the team's not winning and can kind of cover up all the fact that, hey, this sucks, but hey, at least we're winning. Like, no, we're not winning and have to deal with this guy's bullshit.
So Harrison, Harrison. Well, I was gonna ask. I mean, you having been in the room with him, and I thought one of the observations you made to me about the back and forth, that how that tends to go, was how you said it can be kind of tough to you kind of always feel like you're being spoken down to, like I just know things more than you do. That has to get old eventually, right?
I don't want to say always feel like you're being spoken down to. From having been in the room with him now, I can actually see why teams would play hard for him at times, at least at the beginning, because he is very charismatic. He's funny. Right. He's quick-witted with his words. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you do feel like you're being talked down to, I guess, with the answers. And so, yeah, but at the same time, to play devil's advocate, it is the first game of the season. I know this is cathartic. Byron bashing is cathartic, and that was a brutal loss because it went from opening night party, our young guys are playing amazing, except for D'Angelo, but we'll ignore that for now, to now we lost, and Russell didn't play well, and Kobe ISO'd too much, and this season is going to be horrible. And so we kind of made an abrupt transition there, and I think that that's leading to a lot more outrage and worrying than is necessarily warranted. I think maybe we need to slow down just a little bit because it is the first game of the season.
And to that point, what we saw, when Pau came over, he was immediately trusted by Kobe, but not to the full extent as in the fourth quarter. It was still kind of frustrating to see Kobe always go 1-on-5, and then every so often it was a story in games when Kobe would dump the ball into Bynum and let Bynum go to work, and Bynum gets a big bucket. Like, that was a huge story. That was a big development. And to Harrison's point, when you say it was the first game and Kobe is still developing the trust for those young guys, you can kind of say, all right, maybe Kobe was chucking the way he was tonight, and I might get some crap on Twitter for saying it like this, but maybe he was chucking the way he was tonight because he simply doesn't trust the guys like he might later on in the season. He's only known these guys for a month.
Yeah. Well, also on that note, I mean, on a lot of these ISOs, I mean, we sometimes complain that the other players don't move on the ISOs. They clear out. They let Kobe do his thing. I mean, guys were moving on these ISOs. I mean, Randle was diving into the lane. Clarkson was starting his cut. I mean, Russell was trying to move on the perimeter, or at least it was Lou Williams later in the game. I mean, this was Kobe turning down all of those opportunities in exchange for just doing his things. I mean, I think you're right to point out the level of trust, but I mean, at some point,
eventually it has to grow.
Right. I mean, but to the flip side, I mean, we praise Kobe and for lack of a better word, his legend at this point. And it does deserve all its plaudits. But I mean, at a certain point, he has to realize where he is in his career, what he's going for. I mean, there's no scoring record for him to go for. There's no great thing for him to reach. At least last season, we're like, well, half the reasons we were tanking, but at least he's like, okay, I'm going for the scoring record, or at least number 3 on the list, whatever it was, and I'm going to reach that hell or high water. We're like, okay, like you're going for that. You're going for history. That's
especially
okay.
After Randle went down, it didn't seem, and Clarkson wasn't playing yet. We had no idea about him. It didn't really seem like there was much else to root for. It's like, okay, Ryan Kelly minutes, I guess.
Right, and this season, I mean, the only thing Kobe is going to be remembered for this season is going out and mentoring the young guys, and that's it. I mean, at a certain point, I mean, it flips both ways. He has to be kind of self-conscious that this season is not for him. This season is for the development of the young guys. I mean, it's not. I mean, he just has to give it up at some point. I mean, he might just be psychologically unable to give it up, and I mean, that's valid. I mean, it's part of what's made him who he is. But I mean, at a certain point, you just have to go up to him and say, you know what? Clarkson has to run the offense. Randle has to run the offense. Russell has to run the offense. And I mean, you have to accept that your role is going to be at least slightly limited so these guys can grow and they're not caught in your shadow. I mean, and this is your gift to subsequent generations of Laker basketball. I mean, there's nothing you can do that what you can do individually on the court greater than what you can pass down to the Lakers young guys. I mean, there's nothing he can do. I mean, this team isn't going to playoffs. This team isn't competing for a championship. So, I mean, him going out of his way to take over it's ultimately a fruitless effort. And he has to, at some point, I mean, I don't think anyone in the organization is going to have that come to Jesus moment with him, but he needs to have that come to Jesus moment with himself.
At some point, I definitely do. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Harrison, you say you have a great way to wrap up the show. So go ahead.
Well, so we've been pretty down, and we've been down mostly on Kobe and Byron tonight. So I thought that a fun way to end the show might be to look at a Magic Johnson tweet from tonight.
Oh my God.
So Anthony, if you could go ahead and throw my screen up for everybody.
1 second. Oh my gosh. Keep talking. Go ahead.
We got at Kobe Bryant didn't look like the 93rd ranked player in the league, scoring 21 of his 24 points in 3 quarters.
Oh God.
Magic.
Magic. You know it's. I think we've said this multiple times in previous years. It's really impressive how every Showtime guy, nearly every, there are very few exceptions like Coop, without exception, has destroyed their reputation. Like post Showtime, we have Byron, we have Magic being terrible. I guess Kareem's reputation isn't necessarily down, although he's not really part of the organization anymore. And then Coop hasn't really, is just in the studio. But we have to deal with Worthy giving his platitudes about Byron. So I mean, just all these guys are just. At a certain point, like we want you to stay in our memories.
Yeah, they're that high school kid who never grows up and shows up to high school dances drunk all the time. Like, no, stay. Like, we liked you back then. It was great. You were really athletic and you brought like happiness to the school. And now you're that guy. You know, I just called Magic a drunk high school kid. Oh man. All right. On that note, we're gonna go.
That's one way to end it.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here before
the show and our careers.
Yeah, before everything just comes crashing to a mind-numbing halt, if it hasn't already. Lakers play next on 10:30, which is Friday. They play the Kings, who hung right in there with the Clippers tonight, and now apparently Boogie Cousins is hitting threes, so that's cool. Make sure to check out my Harrison and Drew's season preview today. It's up on Silver Screen and Roll and on iTunes and on Stitcher and all that stuff. Ben, do you have anything that you're working on for Silver Screen and Roll? Any kind of angle that you're working towards?
I think my current plan is I'm waiting for the D League to start up. I mean, the Lakers will have a significant D League commitment this season. They'll have Michael Frazier. They'll have Robert Upshaw. I presume when he gets healthy, Jonathan Holmes will be there as well. And then Larry Nance, Anthony Brown. I mean, they didn't play tonight. They should also be down there. Mm-hmm. So they'll have a significant platoon down there. So I mean, in a few, believe November 1st, the Lakers, at least the D League, will they'll have the D League draft, and the teams will finalize their rosters. And at that point, I'll start writing up a bit on the D League because I think that'll be an essential part of the season upcoming. I mean, in full honesty, there might be days where watching the D League and watch Larry Nance dunk on poor souls will be more. It'll be a lot more entertaining than watching the parent team. In full honesty, but no, that's currently an angle I think I'm going to pursue. I mean, I should have some more time open up. Maybe I'll write on some other things, but that's currently what I'm looking at.
That's a really cool angle. That's, it could be potentially the future of the franchise and a win-win for the Lakers, where they keep guys to mentor in the present and then they continue to build for the future. Harrison, anything that you're working on that we'll see in the next couple of days?
Just my short form coverage and doing this whole thing with you, but no, nothing super special.
Good stuff. All right, well, that is Lakers Late Night for tonight. Everybody just try to take a calm breath. I mean, it's the first game. It would have been nice to win that one. If not, head to your local liquor store and just sit there and don't make any rash decisions. But, just consider it. Consider it and then walk away after a little bit there. My name is Anthony Irwin. Ben Rosales, Harrison Faigen, who is covering his face at the moment. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you guys for joining.
Yep, it was great.